Hello everyone. Here it is. It's 1 o'clock on the dot Eastern Standard Time. Welcome in. So we're going to do some math with Audrey. I know. I don't believe that this is my whole thing, but here we are. Okay. So for today, we're going to keep going on with linear equations, but we have solved equations. We have done distributive property. We have looked at the relations and functions, and we also looked at, order of operations and one-step equations, two-step equations. But we haven't gotten to the heart of the problem. Word problems. Okay, I know for a fact, anytime you see word problems, we all freak out, right? So word problems is usually not our thing. But here's my thing. I'm going to be here to walk you through, step by step, how to, 1, set up your word problems, okay? 2, how to solve those said word problems, and maybe even a little bit of graphing. All right, so we're really trying to get in, trying to do some gaining. Hey, EM. Trying to really figure how to break down these things called word problems. So for the next hour, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be breaking down these concepts. Do you do ASVAB tutoring? Yes, I do. I'm actually running a group right now. So I'm running a course where you can watch 107 videos. And what you do is anytime you have a question, you contact me. So it's like a short little subscription. So if you're interested in that, just go ahead and send me a small DM. Go ahead. I think you're following me now. Yep, you're following me now. So go ahead and just send me your information. We'll chit chat and then I'll send you the link. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right, not a problem. All right, so setting up and solving these linear equations. So we have one. We have a sales rep receiving a monthly salary of $2,000 plus a commission of 2% of the total monthly sales. So we need to write an equation that relates the total monthly wages. We're going to use W. And the sales, which we're going to use S. All right, so we'll hit that first one. So let's break it down. What are some things that's jumping at us? So one is our monthly salary. Okay, so before we do anything, any kind of work, no matter what, when we come in that month, I know I'm getting $2,000. Then they have this plus. So that means something is being added to it. There is a commission of 2%. I think you guys can see that. Okay. 2% of the total monthly sales. So let's think of it. Your sales, is that going to depend on your monthly salary? Or is the wages going to depend on the sales? Okay. So what is going to depend on what? So is the wages going to depend on the sales? Or is the sales going to depend on the wages? What do you think? Put it in the chat. And if you're not sure, go ahead and put a question mark, okay? Something is better than nothing. Hello, Jennifer. I didn't see you sneak in here. I think I can do it that way. Okay, so what do you think? Okay, not sure? That's fine. Okay, don't have to worry about that. Don't have to freak out. All right. Okay. Hey, Bex. How are you? All right. So how much you make in the month is going to depend on how many sales that you make. So your wages depends on how many sales that you make. So I know right away, $2,000, I'm going to get that right off the top. But there's this commission. So I get 2% of the monthly sales. So if I make any additional sales, I will get 2% of that total commission. So it's like what I'm going to be, my wages is really going to depend on how many sales that I make. All right. Does that make it a little bit clearer? So my wages, that's my dependent. Because how much I make depends on how many sales I have. And my sales, that'll be my independent. Okay. Yes, good. All right. So with that being said, my wages is going to represent my Y's, my range. Okay. My sales, that's going to represent my independent, my X's, my domain. So if I want to set it up as an equation, it's going to be W equals the monthly salary, which is $2,000, plus my 2%. Okay. How do I make 2% as a decimal? Because I don't want to have the percent sign in my equation. How do I make 2% into a decimal? Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oh, wait, not like that. Gotta do it like this so you guys can see it. All right, so I got two different answers. Hey, Leanne. I got a 0.2 and I got a 0.02. Hey, Gail. Okay, so yes, you take your 2, right? Yes, so it's going to be 0.02. So it's 2 out of 100, okay? So if 2 out of 100 pennies, all right? So that means 2%, that's going to be our 0.02. And since that is how much of the sales, so that will be my S. Okay, so we start off with $2,000 plus that 2%, change that 2% to a 0.02, and it's 2% of. Remember, of means multiplication. So we're multiplying the total number of sales, which is being represented by the letter S. Okay, yes, move the decimal place 2 places to the left. Good. Okay, nice. All right, so that's our equation. Okay, that's our equation. So we finished off part A. So now I'm gonna kind of move it over. Just trying to zoom in a little bit. Let's see if you guys can see it. If I do that. Okay, so now we want to know how much does the rep make after 5 sales before taxes? Of course, you know, that thing, right? We're like, just burn it down. Just give me what I want, all right? So we want to know how much does the rep make after 5 sales, okay? So taxes haven't been come out of it already. We know that the rep is making 2% per sale. So where would I substitute that 5? Okay, where would I substitute this 5? Am I going to substitute it for the W, which is my wages, or am I going to substitute it for the S, which is my sales? What do you think? Okay, Gail saying 5 for S. Okay. Film artist says sales. Okay. So it is, since it says 5 sales, we're going to replace our S with the 5. So that means we have our 2,000 plus our 0.02 times 5. So if we have our 2,000, so now what's 2 hundredths times 5? What's 2 hundredths times 5? Because we need to do that order of operations. From left to right, we need to do multiplication or division before addition or subtraction. So 0.02 times 5. What do we got? Okay, so Gail has 1/10. All right, so film artist says 1/10. All right. So we have 0.1/10 or 0.10. So what is the total of my wages? I'm clueless on this. Okay. So since we have the 5 sales, the 5 went in for the S. So now we need to multiply 0.02 because that's how much. We're taking 2% off of each sale. So if they have 5 sales, you're multiplying 0.02 times 5, which gives me 0.1 or 1/10. Okay. Doing a lot of blessing. That's okay. Oh, I know. I was exhausted. I was not going to be there too late. So now we're going to add the 2,000 to the 1/10. What do I get? So it's like $2,000 plus 10 cents. There you go. Yeah. So 2,000 plus 10 cents. So they made, from 5 sales, $2,000 and 10 cents. Interesting job, right? I was like, I made 10 cents. I worked my butt off, got you 5 sales from your whatever you're selling, and all I get is 10 cents. That is crazy. But here we are. Okay. All right. So do you understand, Leanne, where these numbers are coming from? Okay. No, right? I will definitely be mad with the 10 cents. All right, so it's like it came in late. Okay, so if anything, we started with the equation. This was my monthly salary, which is $2,000. Plus, I get a commission of 2% of the total monthly sales. So if we made 5 monthly sales, we basically substitute the 5 for the S. We multiply the 0.02 times 5, which gave us our 0.10 or 10 cents. And we add it to what we were going to make for that month. So if I did 5 sales for that month, my check, basically, before taxes, of course, is going to be $2,000.10. All right. Okay, so that's going to be our wages. So the first part was to set up the equation. The second part was us doing the substitution to find out how much the rep will make in 5 sales. All right. Okay. So now, let's take a look. Might have to unzoom a little bit. Next time I'll make my print a little bit smaller. Or just my, okay, I understand a little. Okay. All right. So now we're going to number 2. So no matter what, anytime they say write an equation or to write a linear model, okay, I use that terminology as well. That means they want you to come up with an equation that's set up as y equals mx plus b. Or if it's a function, the function of x equals mx plus b. No matter what, it's always going to be my slope and my y-intercept. So if we take a look, this time we have a car travels for t hours on an average speed of 50 miles per hour. Write a linear equation that relates distance, which is going to be represented by d, to time, which is going to be represented by t. All right? So, couple things that's jumping at me. One, anytime they say average speed, just even average, they're saying slope. Okay? Because we know the rate of change, the average rate of change. So anytime they're talking about an average speed, what's following is the slope. And this is 50 miles per hour. All right? So if we are to write the equation, we need to use d for distance and t for time. So what's going to be my dependent? Is it going to be the distance? Does the distance depend on time? Or does time depend on distance? So is it option 1 or option 2? There you go, Gail. Okay, what's going to depend on what? So the distance is going to depend on time, because we always hear that phrase, time waits for no one. So time doesn't depend on anything, okay? So like for us, we can sit here, just chit chat, maybe even sit and just listen to the music, but no matter what, the thing that's changing is time, okay? So that's why they always say, do what you can do with time, because time waits for no one. So since my distance is my dependent, I'm just going to put DEP. Since distance is my dependent and time is my independent, so that means my D is basically like the Y of my equation. So now I need my slope and I need the y-intercept. But they told me the slope. They told me the average speed is 50 miles per hour. So that means we have 50 per. Right away, a lot of people think it's division. But per is actually multiplication. You're going to do division to get the isolation of the hour. But we're not going to use H for hour because they want us to use T for our time. So they didn't give us a start. So that means in order for this car to drive, we had to start at 0. Okay, we just got into the car. Once we put the key in the ignition and we just took off, boom. Then we talked about the average speed, which is 50 miles per hour. So here is our equation. D equals 50t. Right? So now the second part asks us, after we write the equation, they ask us to graph the model from 0 to 5, and we're including 0. How I know that? Because the inequality sign has that equal to symbol underneath. And we're including 5, and how do I know that? Because my inequality sign has that equal to underneath. So in order for us to do this, let's make a table. Let's do an XY table. All right? So we'll be able to get our points a lot clearer. All right. So I'm going to use, since they're saying my t, I shouldn't say an x, I should have put a t to go with the theme. And instead of a y, I should put a d, because that's going to represent my y values. So they're saying that my t's, I'm dealing with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and including 5. So they're saying these are the numbers you should be using for your X, aka T, column. Okay, are we okay? All right. So all we're doing is plugging these values for T into our equation. So it looks like this. We have 50 times 0. And 50 times 0 gives me what? Okay, thank you for the love, guys. Good, Leanne. Okay, because anything times 0 gives me 0. We're going to do the same for the next one, but this time we're plugging in 1 for my time. So 50 times 1 gives me 1. Good artist, film artist. Right? So 50 times 1 gives me 50. So if I substitute 2 for the next one, what's my answer for the next one? What I can do is just substitute for all of them. Okay, film artist selling 100. All right, so all we're doing is plugging in, yes, Gail, we're basically adding 50 each and every time. So what would be the third, the fourth, and the fifth? Let's just combine them all in one time. Because we're adults, we can do it. We're adults, we're fine. I don't have to like walk like this much. So what will be in the third spot, the fourth spot, and the fifth spot? If you can separate with a comma, that would be awesome. Or a decimal point, that's fine. Okay. So Gail's saying 150, 200, and 250. Okay. Are we in agreement? Okay. Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. All right. So we have our 150. We have our 200. And we have our 250. Okay. So we found our order pairs. Okay. We found our order pairs. So we have 0, 0, 150, 2, 100, 3, 150, 4, 200, and 5, 250. So they want us to graph. They want us to graph these points. So if I come over and let's say we can go ahead and graph it, but we're not going to want to count by ones. Like, no. All right, we could probably just leave it with the first quadrant, but I'll do the whole thing. Okay, we're obviously not going to want to count by ones, especially for the y values. Okay, what do we want to count by for the y values? What do you think would be appropriate? Okay, we're saying 50s, we're saying 10s, probably a lot more than 10s. I would like the 50s because if you're doing 10s, that means I really got to raise this graph up a lot more, okay? Because I want to get to 250. If I want to get to 250, that means I need 25 of those lovely spaces. So let's say 50. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be up here if I want to spread it out. So you can say that this 50, this 100, 150. I'm just going to spread it out a little bit. 200, and then up here will be 250. All right. So now we can graph our stuff so much easier. We still have the origin. So the origin is right here at 0, 0. So now we have 150, that's right here, 2, 100. I just spread it out a little bit. 3, 150, 4, okay, right there, 200. And then 5, 250. Okay, so as you can tell, we have a straight line. Okay, so starting from 0, notice I didn't go all the way to the negatives. Why didn't I go all the way to the negatives? Okay, why didn't I do down here? Because then this will be a -1, a -2, a -3. Why didn't I go all the way down here? Hello, Joe. So why am I not going down to the negatives? Why did I stop here, or I start here at 0, 0? And I have it continue on. But I didn't take that line all the way down into the negatives. Not sure that's a trick question. True. Think about it. You get in the car. You're starting at 0, 0. You haven't drove anywhere. You just got into the car. You put the key in ignition. If you're like me, you kind of hit it to the floor. And just take off running. Okay, because we're working with positive numbers moving forward. Maybe when you drive backwards. Okay, so we're not going back into time. We're basically looking at, remember, this is going to be our time in hours. And we're not looking at what happened an hour ago. We're looking at us driving, as film artist said, we're driving forward, we're moving forward. So we had to start somewhere in order for us to get our distance. I'm not trying to drive underground, okay? I'm not trying to drive underground. So that's why I'm really just looking at the first quadrant, because I'm looking at how many hours, and I can make predictions with this. I don't care what happened prior to this vehicle. Just when I got into the car, and then I just took off running. And we're assuming that is a linear function. Okay? How do we feel about the setup? How do we feel about the setup of the equation? how we feel about how we got our points, and also graphing. So there's 3 things that's going on here. Okay, thumbs up, hit the likes. Okay, film artist, you're good. Great. Okay. Hey, Miss Page, how are you? Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're trying to set up. The beginning, I'm having a little hard time with. Like setting up the equation. Okay, so anytime they say average speed, that means they gave you your slope. Anytime they say we're average speed, whatever follows, that is your slope. That is your M. Okay. But since they didn't give us like, okay, what is at a certain distance, that means we're starting from the beginning. We're starting at 0, 0. Okay. Then once it gets to the graphing, they want us to go between from 0 to 5. So we needed to get our Y values. So in order for us to get our Y values, we plug in the T values that they gave us, which is from 0 to 5. And we plugged it into our equation, which is D equals 50T. Okay, so we can get the Y values so we can plot it on our graph. All right, so it takes a little time. It's almost like you're doing some kind of slight decoding in order for us to kind of get this. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to keep going. So I have like roughly 5, possibly 6 of these, and then we're going to be like done. And I know it's a little blurry. Why is it blurry? Don't know. All right. It should clear up momentarily. There we go. All right. So here's a real story. Okay. A school district purchases a high volume printer, copier, and scanner for $25,000. Yep, that actually can happen. All right. So after 1 year, its depreciated value is $22,700. Okay, the depreciation is linear. So when you say about depreciation, when you first buy a car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, like literally one wheel comes off that lot, boom, it immediately depreciates. Okay, I don't know what the rate is, but you can't say, oh, okay, I just bought this car for like $35,000. Oh, I can sell it for $35,000. Nope. As soon as it comes off the lot, it does have a depreciation. All right. So you're like, oh, I just got it. Yeah, congratulations. There's a depreciation. So that means it's not as much as the same original value. So now they're asking us to write a linear model. Remember what I said about linear model? Linear model means an equation. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? That relates to the value of the equipment to the time in years. All right? Knowing what we just talked about with time. Okay? The time in years, time waits for no one. So that means that is my independent variable. So that means the value of that equipment is going to be my dependent variable. All right. It's good to know what that is so you know what is going to be on the outside to the left of the equal sign. So what's going to be onto the left, instead of me putting a y like I have for the y equals mx plus b, I'm putting the v. Okay, capital V. So that means the value equals, right? Yes. So the value equals. Now, my slope. So did they give me my slope? What do you think my slope would be in that situation? Thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. Okay. Well, we haven't gotten to B yet, so it's not going to be B. It's not going to be the 5 years. So we're not even looking at B right now. It's just all based off the paragraph that's here. Okay. So they bought a scanner at $25,000. After 1 year, it depreciates at $22.70. Okay, so your T years. So in 1 year, how much was the combinations of printers, copper, and a scanner? So in 1 year, so let me put it off to here. In 1 year, the value was 22,700. Too many parentheses. Too many commas. Don't want to confuse you. All right. That's an ordered pair. So in 1 year, we have those machines, those equipments equaling 22,700. In 0 years, it's going to be 25,000. These are order pairs. Okay, these are order pairs. So they're giving us a little bit. Right, so film artists, because even if I do anything, so we have at 0, we started with the 25,000. But they said in 1 year, the difference is, well, we don't want the difference, but the depreciation is 22,700. Okay, so that's what happened in 1 year. But we need to know the slope. What was, if I may put it this way, the rate of change? The difference of my y's over the difference of my x's. Okay, so if I take a look, we have to find the slope. Okay, they didn't give us the slope. They didn't say the magical words, the average depreciation value is this. They didn't give us that. So we actually have to find the slope. So if I may, I'm going to try to keep it over here. Remember, my slope is the change of y's over the change of x's. So we can say that this is my y1 and my x1 because that's the first information that they gave us. They said that all the machinery cost $25,000. This will be my x2 and my y2. So that means, there we go. We can do, well, yeah, we can do that one. 22,700 minus the 25,000 over what we got for our 1 minus 0. Looks familiar? Okay, so film artist thinks it's $2,300 because if you did your 22,700 minus your 22,700 minus 25,000, that will give me a negative 2,300 because it depreciates. Don't forget the negative. Okay. And if I put it over 1 minus 0 gives me 1. So we all know anything divisible by 1 is itself. itself. Okay, so that's going to be my slope. Okay, I forgot the negative. Yes. Okay. So they didn't give us the slope. They told us the first time they got it was 25,000. So that means at year 0, just buying it, it was 25K. But a year later, they found out the depreciating value was 22,700. Okay. So we had to find the slope. That's where these points over here came from. Let me see if I can zoom in a lot. I'm not even going to say a little, I'm going to say a lot. All right. So we had to find the slope. Remember, slope is the difference of your y's over the difference of your x's. So we have our 22,700 minus the 25,000 over 1 minus 0, which gives me a negative $2,300 over 1. Anything divisible by 1 is itself. So my slope is negative $2,300. All right. So going back to the equation, we know, let's see if I can slide over here, it gives me a negative 2,300 times t, which is supposed to represent my years. But what would be my y-intercept? What would be my starting amount? What would be my starting amount? What did this cost? The $2,500. Yes, the $25,000, because that's what we started off with. Good. Okay, so this is how much the equipment cost before the depreciation. Okay, got it? Good. All right. So that is our linear model, aka my equation line. It's talking about the value. The way that we find value is we're going to take negative 2,300 multiplied by how many years, that's what t is representing in years, plus the amount that the equipment cost before the depreciation, which is the 25,000. All right. So now we're going to part B. Okay, so now we're going to part B. So they want us to estimate the value of the equipment in 5 years. So we want to know in 5 years. This is why you do equations. You can do equations to help predict how things are going to go. How do you think trend lines work? Okay, we look at how the trend is reacting. What was it when it first came out to roughly how it is now, and we can try to make predictions. Okay, so some people do this with stocks. Some people do this. I know I try to do it with my business. Should I raise my prices? Should I keep my prices the same? So I look at the trend. Okay, I look at how people are spending. Ever hear the term supply and demand? Okay, Business 101. Okay, if you have a supply that's in high demand, you're going to do extremely well. Okay, if you have a supply that no one wants, guess what? You're not going to do so well. You may not be in business that long. So that's why you always want to not only have, because a lot of people do this with marketing, they like promote something and it's something that people don't need. It doesn't matter how cute the commercial is. People will be like, oh, that was a cute commercial. But if it's not something that they need, they're not going to purchase. They're not going to buy. Okay. So life lesson. So now we're talking about 5 years. Where should I substitute the 5? Should I substitute with the V or should I substitute with the T? I'm surprised that TikTok's not trying to ban me right now. Is it with the V or the T? Like, what? What's going on? The T, yes, good. All right, so we have, and I'm going to put it in pen so we can see it a lot clearer. So we have 2,300, and we're going to put a parenthesis, and I'm putting in the 5, plus the 25,000. All right, so we're trying to find what is the value of the equipment in 5 years. All right, so simple calculations. We always do multiplication before division or addition, okay? So, negative 2,000 or 2,300, let's just round it up, times 5. What would that give me? Hello, Barry. Okay. So negative 2,300 times 5 will give me what? Okay, so I got 11,500, negative 11,500, negative 11,500. So yes, a negative times a positive will give me a negative. And then 11,500. So if I add that to 25,000, what is the value of the equipment in 5 years? So this high volume printer, a copier, and a scanner, they got for $25,000. 5 years later, the value would be what? So I'm looking at 36,500. I'm looking at 36,500, 36,500. Okay, with the 36,500. So it's depreciating. So what's missing? It shouldn't be more than what it originally cost. It originally cost 25,000. So there's something missing. Okay, so there's something that was missing when we calculated. If I just did 11,500 with the 25,000, yes, I would get 36,500. So that means the minus or the negative is missing, which are 11,500. Okay. So the lower number is negative. So I got a negative 13,500 and a positive 13,500. Who's right? Film artist or Tiffany? Hello, Black Widow. Okay. So you're saying film. Okay. And if you're not sure, you can use a question mark, guys. That's an option. Okay. If she's saying the result is negative. Right. But the result is not negative. It's actually going to be 13,500. 25,000 is larger than 11,500. So since 25,000 is positive, if I'm subtracting the 11,500, my answer is going to be positive. Okay? So if I have $25,000 to spend and I spent 11,500, that means I have 13,500 left over for me to spend. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So this is how much the equipment is worth after 5 years. Okay. Huge jump. Makes sense. Okay. Now, yes. Okay. Right. So when everyone thinks like, oh, it's going to be great, it's going to be worth so much. Yeah, not really. All right. So looking at time, let me see if we can do something. Yeah, let's do one more with the word problems, and then we're going to do a little bit of a closure. Okay. So let's see if all this can show. Probably not. Let me shrink it a little bit. All right. I think this is, oh wait, I'm really going to shrink it because you guys cannot see it. All right. So a teacher is reimbursed $225 per day for lodging and meals plus 13 cents per mile driven. Okay, maybe she was going on professional development, right? Write a linear model that relates the daily cost, which we're going to use C, to the number of miles driven, which we'll use X. Which is your independent and which is your dependent variable? So does the cost depend on the miles driven, or does the miles driven depend on the cost? Hey, Shaq. So the miles depend on the cost. Miles on cost? Cost depends on the miles. Okay? So how much money that you will make is going to depend on how many miles you drove. Okay? So your cost, that's your dependent. Okay, so the money that you're going to make depends on how many miles you drive. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so if you think of it this way, how much in your check is going to depend on how many hours you work. Okay, good. So that means the C is going to be out here. So it's going to be C equals, because your dependent always goes on the outside. So now they gave us $225 per day. Okay. But they want us to find the daily cost. So that means this per day doesn't mean anything. This is how much is happening in a day. They want to get the cost that's happening in a day. So that means we started off with $225. Okay. So now they add plus 35 cents per mile driven. So 35 cents, we don't have to change it because it's already in change. So we don't have to change it. Like if it was a percent sign, then we would have done the change. Right? So now per mile. And they're saying they want the miles to represent X. So when you see per mile driven, you're going to put an X. All right. Okay, how are we feeling with the setup? Okay, feeling okay. Good, good, good. Awesome. All right. So then this is all we had to do because we just had to write the linear model. That was it. If it asked us like, okay, well, how much would it cost to drive 10 miles? Where would I put the 10? If I did expand on this and say, well, how much would it cost for you or for the teacher to drive for 10 miles? Where would I put that 10 in my equation? Film artist says in place of the X. Okay, we will replace the 10 with the X. Good. Yep. Because C is going to be the cost. So X is going to be the number of miles. So if that was the case, we would have 225 plus 0.35 times 10. So notice the 10 replaced the X. So we don't have the X anymore. All right. So what would my cost be? Now I'm just curious. I didn't even have that part prepared, so I'm just curious. What would the cost be? Okay, so it will be $3.50 when we multiply the 10. Good. Now multiply that answer with the 225. What would my total cost be if he or she drove for 10 miles? So we got 228.5. Okay, Tiffany, same thing, $228.50. Why is it 10 miles? I just made up 10 miles. I just added on to it. Okay. I know, it was not part of the problem. I was just kind of curious, where would it go and how much would it be? Okay. Because really, to answer the question, we basically answered it right here. I was just kind of curious, what would 10 miles look like? Okay. So, yes. How much would it cost? $228.50. Okay, so that's how much that teacher should be getting if they drove 10 miles. All right? NT Turnpike, how are you? All right. Okay. One last thing, one last drill. Let me get myself all situated here before TikTok dismisses me. All right. So this is what I want us to do. Okay. I know if anyone's willing to do any kind of donations, I will greatly appreciate it. Because things are getting a little crazy. Because since I am really doing a lot with these lives, I have to basically take time away. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger. I think that'll work. Okay, so we have 4 different graphs here, right? We have E that's representing a graph, we have F representing a graph, G representing a graph, and H representing a graph. I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to put in the chat which of the graphs, E, F, G, or H, matches the scenario. Okay, so give me a thumbs up when you are ready. I know all 9 of us, and I appreciate the love. If we can take it to 2K, I would greatly appreciate it. I know everyone's kind of getting back into work and didn't have any days off because it's starting to get relatively nicer out. I know here in Maryland, anything above 10 degrees is glorious. That's all I got to say. I don't know. I thought I was in Alaska. All my Alaskan kids are just laughing at me. They're like, yeah, that's what we do. We deal with that all the time. Okay, got a little bit of love. Great, got one person that's ready. Okay, everyone else ready? All right, thank you, film artists, for liking the live. If you know of anyone, because I will be back on this evening at 8:30. And we are actually working on systems of equations. So if you know of anyone that needs assistance with system of equations, I'm working on graphing and also the substitution method. So if you know of anyone that needs assistance with that, please just send them my information and I will be live at 8:30 this evening. Okay. I'm going to see you at 8:30. Okay. Yes. All right. So real quick. Here's the situation. A friend is paying you $10 per week to repay a $100 loan. Okay, I'll repeat it again. A friend is paying you $10 per week to repay a $100 loan. So is it graph E, F, G, or H? Put it in the chat. So a friend is paying you $10 per week to repay a $100 loan. Okay, I got an F. I got an F. Okay. Can you move it over a bit? Sure. This way? Would that work? Did that work? Okay, good. Not a problem. All right. So I will also accept question marks. I will also accept question marks if you're not sure. But I have 2 people that are saying it's going to be F. I know everyone said whistle that while they work. If you can tap while we wait, that would be awesome. Oh, thank you. 3K. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. All right. So Tiffany thinks H. Okay. Let's see if we can get one more. Just one more brave soul. Okay. We have G. All right. So let's think about it. They're paying off a loan. So the amount is going to be decreasing. Also, they're saying they were paying off a $100 loan. So right away, if they're paying someone off on a loan, G and E are not going to work because they're both increasing. It's going to either be F or H. But they said the loan was $100. If you look, this is starting at 100, but H is starting at 600. Okay? Yes, so it's actually going to be F because we started off with $100 and we're paying it off. So eventually we're going to get down to a point that we don't have to pay that person any more money. Okay? All right. Okay. So F's off the table. So we have a sales rep receives $40 per day for food plus 32 cents for each mile traveled. Okay. So we already took care of F. But this one is a sales representative receives $40 per day for food plus 32 cents for each mile traveled. Which one is it? Is it E, is it G, or is it H? Okay, I got a G, I got a G, I got a G. All right. So what was the dead giveaway? If it's G, what told you that it was G? What was the clue? Good, Tiffany. Yes, the 40. This is where we started. Okay, this is called your y-intercept. That's your starting point. That's where everything starts. So originally, just not driving at all, this person is getting $40. And then for every mile that they drive, they're getting 32 cents. So it's increasing. So it's going to be positive. Good. Good. It starts at 40 and increase. Excellent. All right. One more, and then I have to get going. So a TV set purchase, well, actually, we'll probably see if we can do one. A TV set purchased for $600 depreciates $100 per year. A television set purchased for $600 depreciates $100 per year. Okay, is it E or is it H? Okay, got triple H's. Okay. So with the depreciation, Travis, H, yes. Okay. So we started off with 600. And anytime we say depreciation, that means it's going on a downward slope. So we are basically $100 every year. So that's 500 year 2, 400 year 3, 300, and so forth. So basically by year 6, the TV is worth less. It's not worth anything. All right, good. So the process for E was an employee is paid $12.50 an hour plus $1.50 for every unit produced per hour. So that was going to be your E. All right. So that is what we're doing. So when you're breaking down word problems, please, for all things kosher, take it step by step, okay? Especially for linear. My suggestion, this is what I like to do. If you do have a highlighter, highlight what's happening first. Anything with numbers, I usually highlight, okay? Then knowing what plus means, knowing what depreciates means. And I know sometimes, especially if your English is a second language, you know, sometimes it's really hard for word problems. And I get that, okay? So by setting it up, you're always using this y equals mx plus b form. You're trying to find your slope. Once you figure out what your independent and your dependent is, then you'll know what's going to go on the outside. The dependent always goes on the outside. And remember, time, years, minutes, seconds, hours are always going to be independent. Okay? Time waits for no one. All right? So If you like the forms of these, I can't wait to get my new books because I ran out of room in my other ones. I still have my math notebooks, so they are still on sale for Amazon. If you like these, and just trying to keep track of all your notes and how it's structured so you can have the formulas all set and ready for you, as well as the steps if you ever need them. If you want, you can go to Amazon and just type in Audrey Codner, or you can go to my website, which is in my profile, and click on the notebooks, and it'll take you straight to Amazon. All right. So that's what I'm going to do for this afternoon. I have to get myself ready for my clients, but I will be here tonight at 8:30, and we're going to be talking about systems of equations. We're going to be graphing them as well as doing the substitution method. Okay, so that's what we're going to be hitting hard on for this evening. If you are interested in doing a course, that's fine. Remember, my courses, there's 107 videos on there. There's practice problems. You get an answer key. And then you just contact me when you need help with the breakdown of something. So basically, we get a date and a time. We work out the problems. But then it's more on demand. So you don't have to worry every week we have to meet. You can just basically get the assistance when needed. Okay? And then I just basically doing that at $57 a month. Say that you did the program for 1 month and you passed the test the very next month before it kicks in. Guess what? I'm not going to charge you for the second month. What's the point of that, right? You already passed the test. What are you going to stick around with for, right? So if you need any assistance, do not hesitate. Thank you so much for all the likes and thanks for coming in. I know it's not always easy, but I do appreciate when you guys do come in. All right, so if anything, I'll probably see you tonight, and have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye.